Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video I wanted to show you a pretty cool thing I managed to do with Legendary plus Phraesto and in one team even one copy epic quality Mikola. So the point of this video is not really to say that you can stop at Legendary plus with Phraesto, but it is kind of to show you that while you're working on building up your Phraesto, he will help your performance in different Dream Realm bosses, even before you manage to get him to Mythic plus. So I'm going to show you because we've done the full rotation of the bosses, and first of all we're going to lead it off with Lone Gaze. So in Lone Gaze, I managed to get a 1 billion record on my top score using Legendary plus Phraesto, and this was the team that I was using, as you can see here. And my previous best team was the team that Pride was running, and even though he got like 37.6 billion, I never managed to get to that point. I was usually like 37 billion was pretty much my maximum, and so I got a pretty good boost of score by getting the Phraesto even at Legendary plus in here. And I want to compare his damage output here compared to someone who has, for example, a Mythic plus Phraesto. For example, Nick. And Nick only managed to get 0.8 billion damage higher than me, running the same team but with a Mythic plus Phraesto. His Phraesto contributed a lot more damage, as you can tell, but then the OD and Scarlita contributed a little bit lower damage. If we look at True Fighter's team, pretty much maxed out Phraesto. Supreme plus, he managed to get almost 2 billion damage higher than my Legendary plus Phraesto. So the thing about Phraesto, and just in general, for a damage output hero for a Dream Realm, by ascending them, they're going to get stats from their ascension, but they're also going to get stats from upgrading their Mythic plus exclusive equipment. And that is really the major amount of stats that the hero will be getting. But for Phraesto specifically, the skills that he will unlock at Mythic plus, dealing damage if the illusion is defeated before he is, this doesn't really come into play in any Dream Realm boss anymore. In the optimal teams, you don't have Phraesto or his illusion taking lethal damage. At one point in time, people ran Phraesto with his illusion at a plus 15 exclusive equipment in King Croaker and had his illusion tank the first insta-kill, and then this skill would come off. But now people use Taylene to tank the insta-kills in the optimal teams for King Croaker, and you can always have Thorn tanking the insta-kills. So basically, this skill is not really too essential for most Dream Realm bosses, and the same thing can really hold for his Supreme plus ability. It gives him and his illusion shield for the first 12 seconds of the match, which he doesn't need the tankiness. He's surviving the entire battle anyway, and also this is only for the first 12 seconds and then it will wear off. So in terms of the abilities he gains from his upgrades, they're not really needed. But the reason why it is still important to get Phraesto at least up to Mythic plus is because of the stats you're going to be getting from Ascension. Because that makes a difference. As you saw here, it gives you a boost at least 1 billion damage if we take a look at Nick's team. And probably, really, it could go up to 1.5 billion damage higher. But if you don't want to go all in or fully commit to Phraesto for right now, just getting him to the Legendary plus requires 4 copies in total, and getting a Celestial Hypogean to Mythic plus requires 8 copies in total. So it's like half the investment you need, and you can still pull off a workable, usable team with the Phraesto here. And even, for example, let's say you don't have Scarlita, you could run a team with the Phraesto. He would still improve your damage output. Definitely in Lone Gaze. So this was just a really cool thing. As for the magic charms, Titanic charms are going to be the optimal choice for him, giving him more damage output potential because he is really a damage dealer. And that is the thing. If you just are talking about a tank for Dream Realm, then you would not need him to be highly ascended. But because he's a damage dealer and he contributes a high amount of damage, that is why you're going to need to have him highly ascended so that he has more stats, mainly more attack percent, because you're going to gain the stats from Ascension and also the stats from exclusive equipment upgrading. But it's an interesting thing because even at Legendary plus, he's allowed me to be more competitive in certain Dream Realm bosses, and for me, for right now, I'm going to leave him here for right now and maybe decide in the future to take him to Mythic Plus if I want. Okay, now actually there's someone who got an even better record than me. By a lot. Wait. No, oh wait, this is me. Why is it saying Toasters? It says me and Toasters. Anyway, this is the team. We're Legendary plus Phraesto. We're ranked 3 on the scoreboard right now, but I think a lot of people are not sharing their actual optimal teams in my district. But the overall optimal team, as you can tell, is pretty much the team is Gazan is running, unless you're going to try the Mikola or Ludwig type team. But if I don't have those heroes built up, and if you don't have those, then this is basically your next best choice. And I was able to break my record by 1.5 billion damage with this team. And we even outputted more damage than Brosane's team, who was running a Mythic plus Phraesto. But that is just the RNG. Like, generally the Mythic plus Phraesto will outdamage the Legendary plus. Yeah, he did 2 billion damage more. But it was interesting. And the previous best team I was running was basically the team Wooster's running, which I never was able to get to Wooster's score. Usually I would get 43.5 or maybe 43 billion damage, realistically speaking. And so this was a big boost to my damage. And also, as you can tell, you would not even need the Scarlita. So for example, for someone who doesn't even have a Scarlita to begin with, just getting Phraesto to Legendary Plus, if you have Lily May built up, you can get up to 45 billion damage on this boss. And if you do not have Scarlita, if we look down the ranking here, you would pretty much have to do Ale Tom's team at 42 billion. So it could be a 3 billion damage score boost just by getting the Phraesto at Legendary Plus in here. So Phraesto really shines the most in Lone Gaze and Alpha Bear. Hands down, he does the best because these are bosses that are... they have a lot of damage output, and so the tankiness from Phraesto is good, and the continuous damage through the course of the fight. Now, as for the other bosses, I was not able to improve on my all-time record by using the Legendary plus Phraesto, and that's also because if you take a look at some of the top-performing teams, they're very close. Like, for example, my Scarlita team getting 47.8 billion damage, and even comparing it to the top team, which Shakir, Phraesto, Mikola, getting 50 billion damage, there isn't a big difference, and so that is why you would need to have like a fully maxed out Phraesto if you wanted to compete for these the top scorers of Skyclops. Otherwise, better off maybe not running him. But like again, if you didn't have Scarlita, I think you could just copy this top performing team, especially if you have Mikola built up. Like looking at Brosane's team, he only has a Mythic plus Phraesto, not even a Mythic plus Mikola, and he got 48 billion damage. So especially, I guess, if you haven't built up Scarlita, she's actually the crutch I use in a lot of Dream Realm teams. And so a team without Scarlita for Skyclops, for example, you're going to have to look all the way down the ranking. Like, pretty much no one is running that. So you could definitely maybe use Phraesto Legendary Plus to boost your score if you don't have a Scarlita in even Skyclops. King Croaker, this is the craziest thing. Look at my team. I got a new record, 42.6 billion damage, using this Legendary plus Phraesto and an epic copy, one copy of Mikola. And I just didn't believe it. Previously, the best team I was running is like Aminet's team, and I got around, yeah, 42 billion damage is usually where I would be at. Sometimes I replaced OD with Lily May, I believe, or maybe I replaced Merrily with Lily May, but I was really unable to break 42 billion. But on one of my first attempts with this team, which is just copying a higher ranking formation, basically Brosane's team, I managed to get 42.7 billion damage with the Legendary plus Phraesto and one copy of Mikola. But one copy of Mikola is not really going to be good for you pretty much anywhere. If you built up the Mikola to Supreme Plus, she would make my team so much more effective, even just with the Legendary plus Phraesto. So overall, I'm just trying to kind of show you guys that you can actually boost your score even just investing up to Legendary plus of Phraesto. And then later on in the future, when you decide to upgrade him to Mythic plus, you can go for that. And especially if you have the Mikola, because she's basically an essential part of all of the top performing teams, your team would be even more effective, because Mikola would power up the damage output of Phraesto even further. But even for me, without a built-up Mikola, I have managed to break my record of 3 of the Dream Realm bosses just with the Legendary plus Phraesto, which I didn't think would be possible, because generally when you look at any other Celestial Hypogean, or pretty much any hero in the game, Legendary Plus on them is not going to break my all-time top performing record for many Dream Realm bosses. Like Legendary Plus Scarlita would be practically useless. Legendary Plus Mikola, or I mean Legendary Plus Lily May would not be at all usable. But that is because these heroes really depend on their Mythic Plus for a key damage ability. Phraesto doesn't get more damage from his upgrades other than just the stats alone. And so definitely for the stats, to be competitive at the top ranks, you will have to ascend him eventually and ideally get him all the way to Supreme Plus. But for the abilities, he unlocks his damage potential at Legendary Plus. And the Legendary Plus ability is kind of important. It allows him to have more tankiness, and then there's not really any risk of him dying. And also he and his illusion gain more energy when them or the illusion loses health, so that allows a little bit more damage output with their ultimate. So that is why I say Legendary Plus. Also, because it takes 1 copy each time to ascend up to Legendary Plus, you're going to be getting cheap Ascension tiers for bonus stats. But then from that point on, it will require 2 copies to Mythic and then another 2 copies to Mythic Plus. And so it's more expensive for each tier for the Ascension stats. So that is why I think Legendary Plus is a pretty good place for him. Mikola, though, I wish Mikola was more usable, even at 1 copy, but the only team that I've managed to like set a record for me was this King Croker team. In the other teams, you could use 1 copy of Mikola, maybe like, but it would not set a record for me. Maybe it would set a record, for example, if you didn't even have a Scarlita to begin with. But for me, like the other teams, just involving Scarlita would be better. So it's just an interesting thing to keep in mind that even because a lot of times you think, especially for Rainier, if Rainier was the first Celestial Hypergene you built up, you would know that you have to wait until 8 copies before he's even runnable anywhere in Dream Realm. But Phraesto is different. Even at Legendary Plus of the 4 copies, he is runnable in these bosses, and if you don't have a better option, he might be the best option in almost all of the Dream Realm bosses for you, even at Legendary Plus. So that's something really interesting. But definitely, the thing with Rainier, we can't say that passing on Rainier is a good idea, because the top performing Dream Realm bosses, some of them will still involve Rainier, and also before entering endless boss modes, usually Rainier is quite important. And for the new season, we're gonna have 8 total Dream Realm bosses. We don't know all that will be there, but again, I'm probably imagining Rainier will be an important part of some of those teams. So passing on Rainier to Mythic Plus isn't really like, you can pass on whatever you want, but it's not really a good advice. So Rainier still, in my opinion, should be one of the top priorities for you as a beginner player. But once you have him at Mythic Plus, you could go for Phraesto just to Legendary Plus, and already your Dream Realm teams are going to be pretty solid. If you go for Scarlita, then that is more the PvP route, and she can also contribute decently to Dream Realm. But Phraesto is going to be the better choice if Dream Realm ranking is what you are most concerned about. I think also it will depend on the competitiveness of your server, because when we look at the ranking rewards for Dream Realm, we don't really care about the district ranking rewards. You get some Twilight Essences, because you get the 2 Temporal Essences no matter what, even as long as you're in the top, 15%. So, and Temporal Essences are the most important resource. The other things here, like the Twilight Essence, no one really cares about, and the Dream Realm currency is the same for the different tiers here. So it's about your server ranking. So if you're able to maintain like top 10, top 20, top 50, wherever you're competing for, depending on like your spending level, then you don't need to go so all out for Dream Realm. You can just try to maintain that position. Because, for example, in my server, I'm pretty safely in the top 10, even without building all of these optimal Dream Realm teams. I know like Mikola, Phraesto, Ludovic, Talene, if I would build them all up, I would be able to get the top scores for Dream Realm. But I'm able to be in top 10 safely with the Phraesto at Legendary Plus, without building up Mikola, just having 1 copy of her, and not building Talene. So I don't need to build them because I'm maintaining top 10, which is the maximum rewards. And for you, if like for example you're aiming at top 20 or top 50, if you're already maintaining that, you don't need to invest more into Dream Realm, is kind of the thing I'm saying. And then you can go for the PvP heroes, or you can go for the heroes which you think you would enjoy more. But if you're in a more competitive server, for example, if my server was really hardcore competitive and I was struggling and I was getting knocked out of top 10, I would be much more inclined to then start investing more into Phraesto, trying to optimize my teams. Definitely Phraesto, after Rainier to Mythic Plus, Phraesto will be the best choice if you're fully targeting Dream Realm. Having Phraesto Mythic Plus and Rainier Mythic Plus will give you the maximum damage potential for Dream Realm. There's no question about that. But then after that, probably building up Scarlita would be important, because there are some Dream Realm boss teams that use both Scarlita and Phraesto. So, and then eventually Taylene as well. But yeah, it's kind of the thing about what are you aiming for, what rank are you aiming for, and how competitive is your server. Will decide basically, will basically factor into your decision making. So anyway guys, I wanted to show and share this with you because it's pretty cool. I didn't expect that a Legendary Plus Phraesto would be able to put in so much work, and I think it could be even more impressive if I had, for example, the other heroes built up like Ludovic or Mikola. At least Mikola built up. I think we could get some pretty impressive scores with the Legendary Plus Phraesto. Just maybe like 2 or 3 billion damage less than the top performing all-time teams, because like I mentioned, the skills of Phraesto after Legendary Plus are not going to increase his damage. It's only the Ascension stats that he's getting. So, but yeah, for Mikola, it's pretty important to get her to Supreme Plus for the permanent Curse Sphere activation. That increases her output of damage quite a bit. And also you want to have her ascended because she will just be a more effective support for the team. But as you saw, we did get a new record even with her at 1 copy, at least for King Croaker. But anyway guys, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video, and yep, that's gonna be it. And if you want to join my AFK Journey Discord server, there will be a link to that in the description of this video, and there's a link to it in the description of all my videos. But I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video, and until then everyone, peace out for now, and thank you for watching.